Chosen one. You did not arrive here by accident. Heaven has ordered your steps to this exact moment. Something in the spirit has reached its tipping point, and you are standing at the threshold of a supernatural financial breakthrough, a divine wealth transfer prepared with your name on it. Anointed one, the timing is perfect, the alignment unmistakable. What you are about to hear is not information, but impartation. As Scripture says, for the vision is for an appointed time, and that time is now. Open your spirit, chosen one. Heaven is about to reveal why everything shifts for you tomorrow. Chosen one, when you hear these words, let your spirit become still for a moment, because heaven has orchestrated this exact second with precision you cannot yet fathom. You are not watching this video because you were curious or bored or scrolling without direction. You are here because heaven summoned you. You are here because something in the unseen realm has reached its final hour, and your presence in this moment is part of a divine sequence that began long before you felt the weight of your battles. Anointed one, you have stepped into a prophetic intersection where what once fought you is losing its authority, not because time passed, but because you changed. It is important for you to understand this. Nothing is ending randomly. Heaven does not move at random, and breakthroughs do not arrive without alignment. The cycle ends because you matured. The warfare breaks because you endured. The weight lifts because you refused to collapse under it. There were nights when you questioned why the pressure was so intense, why the attacks felt personal, why you seemed chosen for storms that others never faced. But chosen one, the very battles that tried to destroy you were actually revealing you. They were exposing the strength heaven placed inside you long before the world recognized your existence. Every disappointment, every betrayal, every delay was chiseling away the old version of you so that the true version could finally rise. I know what it feels like to stand on the edge of a breakthrough and still carry the ache of yesterday. I have lived through seasons where I begged heaven for relief, where doors closed in my face, where friendships dissolved, where opportunities slipped through my fingers, just when I thought I was finally stepping into my promise. And I remember thinking, why me? Why does it feel like I'm being prepared for something I can't see yet? But then, over time, I realized something profound. Heaven never closes a door to punish you. Heaven closes doors to preserve you, and everything you've walked through, chosen one, has been preservation. You endured attacks that were meant to drain you, but they only sharpened your discernment. You survived seasons of silence that were meant to discourage you, but they deepened your sensitivity to God's voice. You walked through fire that should have consumed you, but instead it refined you into someone dangerous to darkness. The enemy didn't fight you because you were weak. He fought you because you were a threat. And the moment you started standing up straighter, praying with authority, choosing peace over chaos, choosing identity over insecurity, hell recognized the old you was gone. Chosen one, that is why it ends tomorrow, because the old version of you could be attacked. The old you tolerated disrespect, lowered your standards, accepted crumbs, settled for connections that were beneath your calling. The old you apologized for being chosen. But the awakened you, the version shaped by pain, matured in silence, and strengthened in the secret place, is no longer someone the enemy can manipulate. Heaven ends cycles not because the enemy grows tired, but because you outgrow the environment that once sustained that battle. There is something sacred that happens when identity rises, when awareness rises, when truth rises. Jesus said, "You shall know the truth, and the truth shall make you free." and truth has been rising inside you quietly, steadily, undeniably. You have begun to see your life through a spiritual lens rather than an emotional one. You have begun to understand that not every loss was a punishment, some were protections. Not every delay was denial, some were alignments. Not every betrayal was cruelty, some were divine severings intended to remove access from people who could not honor your calling. Chosen 1. The reason tomorrow marks the end is because today marks the awakening. Your mind is shifting. Your faith is strengthening. Your spirit is stepping into authority. You no longer think like a survivor. You are beginning to think like a ruler, a builder, a steward of destiny. Heaven has been renovating your inner world because the blessing prepared for you would crush you if your mindset remained small. What good is a promised land if the mind entering it still believes it is unworthy? What good is a divine transfer if the heart receiving it still feels disqualified? That is why God worked on your inner world before he touched the external one. And now, because you have changed internally, everything around you is preparing to change externally. You are entering a mental realm darkness cannot follow you into. You are stepping into a spiritual dimension where old weapons lose their effectiveness. You are rising into a version of yourself that heaven has been waiting for and hell has been terrified of. The battles that once overwhelmed you cannot return because they were designed for the old you, not the awakened you. The fears that once crippled you cannot anchor you anymore because revelation has replaced insecurity. The delays that once frustrated you cannot hinder you anymore because divine timing has aligned with your growth. I want you to hear this deeply. Your tomorrow is not about hours or minutes. It is about identity. It is about awakening. It is the moment heaven judges a cycle complete because you have finally become the person who can no longer be held captive by it. You did not just survive a season, you outgrew it. You did not just make it through warfare, you transcended it. And the cycle ends because you are no longer feeding it with doubt, fear, or self-limiting beliefs. Chosen 1. Heaven is announcing the expiration date of everything that once resisted you. Not because the fight got easier, but because you became stronger. Not because the storm calmed, but because you learned how to walk on the waves. And tomorrow, your prophetic tomorrow, marks the moment everything that once had power over you loses authority permanently. Chosen 1. Now that your spirit has begun to awaken, you must understand something even deeper. Heaven does not release endings without preparing a beginning. When God declares that a cycle ends tomorrow, he is not merely closing a door. He is making room for a divine unveiling. Something new, something long promised, something intentionally crafted for your destiny has been waiting behind the very battles you thought would break you. Anointed 1. The expiration of your suffering is not a coincidence. It is a sign that heaven is shifting you into alignment with what has always belonged to you. There is a realm in the spirit where timing is not measured in minutes, but in maturity. Where breakthroughs do not respond to desperation, but to transformation. And you, chosen 1, have finally risen to the spiritual altitude necessary to receive what was once out of reach. For many seasons you prayed for deliverance, but heaven was shaping endurance. You prayed for blessings, but heaven was developing capacity. You prayed for stability, but heaven was building identity. Because heaven does not give you what you pray for, it gives you what you are prepared for. You may not realize this yet, but you have crossed an invisible threshold. The pain you endured did not just end something, it activated something. Your tears became seeds. Your silence became strength. Your disappointments carved out a depth in you that glory can now fill. Everything that once made you question whether you were chosen is now the very evidence that you are, because no one who is unmarked by heaven survives what you survived. No one without divine assignment walks through fire and comes out more refined than before. No one without destiny faces storms designed to drown others, yet emerges carrying revelation, authority, and clarity. Anointed one. The pressure you felt was not because God abandoned you, it was because heaven was stretching you. When heaven prepares someone for supernatural promotion, the stretching always comes before the shifting. Think of it like the tension in a bow. The farther back the string is pulled, the farther the arrow can fly. You were being stretched, resisted, bent, and pressed not to break you but to launch you. What felt like setbacks were actually setups. What felt like resistance was alignment. What felt like collapse was the moment heaven anchored you into position for elevation. And now, heaven announces, the bow has been released. You are in motion, chosen one. Even if you cannot see it yet, you are already moving toward a future written by God's own hand. The momentum that surrounds you is not earthly, it is spiritual. Doors will open not because you knocked, but because they were commanded to. Opportunities will appear not because you chased them, but because heaven assigned them to your name. The right people, the right conversations, the right resources, all will begin to locate you because alignment attracts what effort never could. Let me speak to you from personal experience. I have known seasons where it felt like God had forgotten the timeline of my life, where prayers went unanswered, where breakthroughs seemed delayed, where I watched others ascend while I remained in the same place. But what I learned painfully and beautifully is that God never forgets those he has marked. He simply waits until the ordained moment, the moment when granting the blessing will not destroy you, but strengthen you. And when the release comes, it does not come slowly, cautiously, or hesitantly. It comes in waves, sudden, undeniable, unstoppable. Chosen one, that is the season you are stepping into now. A season of divine sudden lies. A season where what you could not force in your own strength becomes effortless in God's timing. A season where the things that resisted you violently will begin to submit to you quietly. Because the spiritual laws that once permitted warfare against you no longer apply to the elevated version of you that has now emerged. The enemy crafted strategies based on who you used to be, not who you have become. And this new version of you, rooted, awakened, sharpened, cannot be fought with old tactics. You have become spiritually unrecognizable to the darkness that once tormented you. And that is why everything ends tomorrow. Because the enemy cannot fight someone he no longer has access to. You outgrew the battlefield. You expanded beyond the reach of the weapons formed against you. The very atmosphere around your life has shifted, and darkness cannot breathe in the elevation God has brought you into. But with endings come beginnings, holy beginnings. And you need to prepare your heart for what heaven is placing in your hands next. You are entering a season where divine provision will flow more consistently, more naturally, and more supernaturally than anything you've experienced before. Not because you chase money, but because you pursued purpose. Not because you begged for blessings, but because you allowed God to break cycles that were blocking them. There is a financial shift coming, yes, a divine transfer, but it is rooted in spiritual identity, not greed. Heaven releases resources to those who have been purified, refined, and positioned for kingdom impact. And chosen one, you are now one of them. Do not be surprised if unexpected opportunities start appearing. Do not be surprised if old ideas suddenly come alive with new clarity. Do not be surprised if connections you once thought were random reveal themselves as divine links in the chain of your destiny. Heaven is not improvising. Heaven is unfolding. Chosen. 1. This ending is not the final chapter. It is the clearing of old debris to reveal the foundation for a new life. A life where your voice carries more authority, where your presence shifts atmospheres, where your purpose begins to influence people you have not even met yet. You're stepping into something weighty, something holy, something irreversible. And when tomorrow comes, your prophetic tomorrow, you will not walk into it timidly. You will walk into it with the confidence of someone who has survived fire, shattered cycles, awakened identity, and now stands ready to receive everything God has prepared. Chosen one. As you continue to move deeper into this revelation, you must understand that heaven has been watching your journey with an intensity that the natural world could never comprehend. Nothing you endured went unnoticed. Not the tears you cried behind closed doors, not the nights you laid awake, replaying conversations, wondering where things went wrong. Not the moments of silence where you felt spiritually numb, unable to discern whether you were moving forward or standing still. Anointed one, heaven recorded every sigh, every prayer, every whispered "Lord, help me," even when you didn't have the strength to lift your head. There is a reason the atmosphere around your life feels different now. You have crossed a line in the spirit, a line you didn't even realize you were approaching. It wasn't marked by fireworks or signs or prophetic dreams. It was marked by your endurance, by your refusal to collapse, by your willingness to keep walking even when you felt like you were crawling. And heaven, seeing this transformation, has declared, it ends tomorrow because you have finally become who you were always meant to be. But let us go deeper. Chosen one. There is a truth many believers never grasp. Cycles do not end when the enemy gets tired. Cycles end when you awaken. When you truly see yourself not through the lens of your mistakes or your trauma, but through the eyes of the one who created you. As long as you saw yourself as fragile, the battle continued. As long as you believed you were unworthy, the storm lingered. As long as you thought your past defined you, darkness had permission to follow you. But the moment identity clicked into place, the moment you said, "I am chosen," not as a cliché, but as a revelation, the chains began to snap one by one. I know this shift intimately. There was a season in my own life where I kept asking God to break the cycle, not realizing that it was my own mindset that kept the cycle alive. I was waiting for heaven to move, while heaven was waiting for me to stand up. I thought deliverance would come through someone laying hands on me, but it came when I finally confronted the lies I had agreed with. It wasn't the enemy keeping me bound, it was the version of myself that didn't know I was powerful. Once my identity shifted, everything else did too. And the same is happening to you now, chosen one. You have unknowingly stepped into a higher dimension of awareness. You are seeing yourself, your purpose, your future with new eyes, eyes that have been washed by tears, sharpened by pain, and illuminated by revelation. You used to measure yourself by surface-level metrics, success, relationships, opportunities, validation. But now you measure yourself by calling, by alignment, by obedience. This is spiritual maturity, and it is the reason cycles lose their authority. But let me tell you something, few people will dare to say, awakening is expensive. It costs isolation, it costs misunderstanding, it costs outgrowing people you once thought would walk with you forever. It costs being mislabeled, underestimated, even rejected. But here is the miracle hidden in the cost. Every departure made room for destiny. Every closed door redirected you to the right one. Every ending cleared the space for a divine beginning. You thought the pruning was punishment, but it was preparation. You thought the shrinking circle meant weakness, but it meant elevation. The higher God lifts you, the fewer people can breathe at that altitude. Chosen one. Heaven has been removing what cannot go with you into tomorrow. Not to hurt you, but to preserve you. There are people whose presence would have contaminated your promise. There are patterns in your thinking that would have sabotaged the blessing coming your way. There are emotional wounds that would have distorted the vision God is about to place before your eyes. So heaven intervened quietly, strategically, intentionally. Every delay was a divine recalibration. Every disappointment was a spiritual detox. Every heartbreak was the cracking open of your old identity so that the new one could take its rightful place. Now stand still for a moment inside this truth. You are not entering tomorrow as the person who survived. You are entering tomorrow as the person who overcame. The anointed one does not limp into destiny. They rise into destiny. And you, chosen one, are rising. The atmosphere around your name is shifting. You may not see the full picture yet, but the evidence is already manifesting in small ways, in the peace settling in your spirit, in the clarity returning to your thoughts, in the renewed sense of purpose you cannot explain. These are signs that heaven is lifting you into a divine repositioning. You must also understand this. When heaven ends a cycle, it always begins a transfer of wisdom, a transfer of authority, a transfer of opportunity, and yes, for those heaven can trust, a transfer of financial provision. You have endured seasons where it felt like everything you touched slipped through your fingers, where you gave more than you received, where your generosity seemed unnoticed, but nothing has been wasted. The seeds you sowed in tears are returning in breakthrough. The sacrifices you made in private are being honored in public. The purity of your heart has been weighed, and heaven found you trustworthy. Chosen one. Tomorrow does not simply mark the end of warfare. It marks the beginning of acceleration. God is not just restoring what you lost. He is multiplying what remains. The painful chapters of your past are not your identity. They are your testimony. The things that once made you question your worth will soon become the very things that qualify you to carry what heaven is releasing. You are stepping into a season where things that took you years to build will be established in months, where clarity will replace confusion, where favor will replace delay, where abundance will replace scarcity. Heaven is declaring over you, you are ready, you are aligned, you are awakened. And because of that, the cycle ends tomorrow and destiny begins. Chosen one. As you move deeper into this unfolding revelation, there is something heaven needs you to grasp, something foundational, something powerful, something that will shape the way you walk into every future season of your life. The transformation you are experiencing is not just emotional or circumstantial, it is spiritual architecture. It is heaven rebuilding you from the inside out. The old structures of thought, fear, insecurity, and self-doubt are being demolished so that a kingdom foundation can be laid. And when God builds, He builds with permanence. He builds with purpose. He builds with fire and blueprint and intention. There is a moment in every chosen person's life when the inner shift becomes louder than the outer noise. When you no longer listen to the echoes of your past, but to the whisper of God calling you forward. Anointed one you are in that moment now. You have entered the silent chamber of divine reconstruction, and heaven is reshaping your identity in ways you have not yet fully seen. The breaking you endured did not leave you broken, it left you open. Open for revelation. open for alignment, open for the version of you heaven has been waiting to reveal. And yet, to understand the weight of this season, you must recognize how much spiritual warfare was aimed at preventing this exact awakening. The enemy was not fighting your present, it was fighting your potential, not your history, your destiny. The attacks against your mind were not random, they were strategic. The confusion, the heaviness, the fatigue, the doubt, these were not signs that God abandoned you. They were signs that the enemy feared what would happen if you ever realized who you truly are. Because an awakened chosen one is a threat to every structure of darkness. And now that awakening has happened. But awakening does not come without cost. It required you to let go of patterns that once felt comfortable. It required you to release people who no longer aligned with your calling. It required you to stop apologizing for your anointing, your clarity, your authority. It required you to look at yourself with honesty, brutal, sacred honesty, and admit what needed to change, what needed to heal, what needed to die. Chosen one. You did the hard work that many refuse to do. You did not run from the mirror. You faced it. You did not numb your pain. You processed it. You did not silence your spirit. You listened to it. And because of that, heaven can now entrust you with more. Let me tell you something from my own journey, a truth I learned painfully and slowly. God never elevates us above the level of our identity. If you believe you are small, you will live small. If you believe you are unworthy, you will sabotage every blessing. If you carry shame, you will hide your greatness. The enemy's greatest strategy is not to destroy your finances or relationships or opportunities. It is to distort your self-perception. Because if he can convince you that you are powerless, you will hand over the authority you already possess. But you, chosen men, have broken through this deception. You no longer see yourself through the fog of insecurity. You no longer measure yourself by the failures of yesterday. You no longer shrink yourself to make others comfortable. You have begun to walk like someone who knows heaven's fingerprint is on their life. And that confidence, that clarity, that spiritual posture it has shifted everything. The reason the cycle ends tomorrow is not because the enemy surrendered it, is because you outgrew the prison. The walls that once held you cannot contain you anymore. The lies that once wrapped around your mind cannot convince you anymore. The patterns that once felt unbreakable now crumble beneath your feet. Awakening is not just mental, it is atmospheric. When a chosen one rises, the environment around them must shift accordingly. Chosen one, you must prepare yourself for what this shift will bring. When God promotes you, he does not lift you quietly. The promotion may begin internally, but it always manifests externally. And for many of you, a divine transfer, financial, spiritual, relational, is already in motion. You have sown in seasons when you barely had strength. You have given when you were the one who needed support. You have stayed faithful when you had every reason to walk away. And heaven does not overlook faithfulness. Heaven rewards it. Do not be surprised when resources begin to appear. Do not be surprised when opportunities align themselves. Do not be surprised when people you never met are drawn to your purpose. Destiny has a magnetic pull, and once identity awakens, the right things begin to gravitate toward you. Your tomorrow will not look like your yesterday, not because circumstances changed, but because you changed. There will also be an increased sensitivity in your spirit. You may find yourself discerning things quickly, motives, intentions, spiritual atmospheres. You may feel a deeper pull towards stillness, prayer, and consecration. You may notice that certain environments drain you more than before. This is not a sign of weakness. It is a sign of elevation. The higher you rise, the more selective you must become. Eagles cannot breathe at altitudes where chickens thrive, and neither can you. You are entering a season where your peace becomes sacred, where your clarity becomes your compass, where your spirit becomes your guide. And in this new season, you will not walk timidly. You will walk with holy authority. Heaven has entrusted you with revelation, and revelation always precedes manifestation. Chosen one. The battle you endured was not wasted. It was refining you for rulership. It was preparing you to steward blessings without losing yourself. It was building you into someone who can walk in abundance, without arrogance, influence without corruption, and authority without pride. God is not simply ending a cycle, He is unveiling a leader. And tomorrow, when heaven announces the final closure of what once bound you, you will step forward, not as someone who barely survived, but as someone destined to reign. Chosen one. As we continue this journey into the revelation, heaven is unfolding over your life. There is a deeper layer you must now understand, one that will anchor your faith and steady your spirit as you step into the divine tomorrow being prepared for you. You are standing in a threshold season where everything around you may still look familiar, but everything within you has changed. And when the inner world shifts, the outer world has no choice but to respond. Anointed one. This is the reality of spiritual elevation. Life bends to meet the transformed version of you. There were years when you tried to force change through effort, through striving, through survival. You pushed yourself to exhaustion, hoping circumstances would shift, hoping relationships would heal, hoping opportunities would appear. And when nothing changed, you blamed yourself. You thought you were too weak, too late, too flawed, too broken. But heaven was whispering something you could not yet hear. Breakthrough does not come when the world is ready for you. Breakthrough comes when you are ready for it. Now you are ready, chosen one. Not because life suddenly became easier, not because the warfare stopped, not because people finally validated you. You are ready because something in your spirit snapped into alignment. The things that once triggered you no longer have authority. The discouragement that once swallowed you no longer steals your breath. The fear that once paralyzed you now trembles at the strength you carry. The cycle ends tomorrow because you are no longer the same person who entered it. And this is where heaven begins initiating transfer. Before God entrusts a chosen one with greater influence, greater resources, greater spiritual authority, He always tests the foundation. He watches how you respond in seasons of lack. He observes how you steward opportunities when no one is watching. He examines the integrity of your heart in seasons where applause is absent and support is silent. And you, anointed one, you passed the tests you didn't realize you were taking. I want to speak to you from a place of personal vulnerability, because authenticity is a bridge that helps revelation land softly in the human heart. There was a time in my own journey when I felt forgotten by heaven. Opportunities slipped away, finances dried up. I sowed into people who did not appreciate me. I supported others through their storms, only to walk through mine alone. I questioned my worth. I questioned my calling. I questioned whether God saw me at all. But looking back now, I understand heaven wasn't ignoring me. Heaven was protecting me. If God had released the blessing, then I wouldn't have been ready. I would have mishandled it. I would have wasted it. I would have attached it to people who had no business being connected to my destiny. And so heaven delayed the blessing until I was strong enough to steward it. Woodinchart, this is your moment of readiness. You have been refined in the quiet places, processed in the shadows, strengthened in the wilderness. And now the same God who hid you is about to reveal you. The same God who stripped you is about to clothe you in glory. The same God who pruned you is about to promote you. And promotion is not always loud. Sometimes it looks like peace. Sometimes it looks like clarity. Sometimes it looks like the sudden realization that you no longer depend on the approval of people who once determined your joy. But other times, yes, chosen one promotion is visible, tangible, measurable. It comes in the form of connections, elevation, recognition, opportunity, and even financial increase. You are entering a season where heaven is going to trust you with more because you have proven that your heart will not bow to idols when blessings arrive. You have demonstrated that you're not motivated by greed, but by purpose, not driven by pride, but by assignment. You've shown that your spirit is anchored enough to carry favor without collapsing under pressure. And this is why God is preparing a financial shift around you, not so you can flaunt wealth, but so you can fund purpose. Not so you can boast, but so you can build. Not so you can accumulate, but so you can advance the calling on your life. Divine resources always flow toward those who are aligned, awakened, and trustworthy. And you, chosen one, have entered that realm of stewardship. But understand this, abundance does not fall onto the old version of you. It flows toward the awakened version. That is why heaven has been dealing with your mindset, breaking poverty, thinking, removing scarcity beliefs, uprooting generational patterns that told you survival was the ceiling of your existence. You were not born to survive. You were born to multiply. You were not created to scrape for crumbs. You were created to steward harvest. And heaven is whispering to you now, prepare yourself. Prepare your mind, your habits, your expectations, because what is coming requires structure, wisdom, and spiritual clarity. Chosen one, don't be surprised if you begin to feel the urge to organize your life, clean your physical space, adjust your financial habits, release unnecessary clutter, emotional and material. This is not random. Elevation always brings the instinct of preparation. The spirit senses what the mind has not fully comprehended yet. Your tomorrow is forming, and it demands room. You may also notice that heaven is clearing out distractions, relationships, fading desires, shifting priorities, rearranging. This may feel uncomfortable, even lonely at times, but it is necessary. God is not removing people to punish you. He is removing them so they do not contaminate the future that belongs to you. You are stepping into an identity that darkness cannot imitate, into a purpose hell cannot sabotage, into a future designed by God long before pain touched your life. Chosen one. Tomorrow is not coming, it is already rising in you. And the cycle ends because heaven has found in you a vessel ready to carry glory. Chosen one. As we continue in this revelation, heaven is urging you to pay close attention, because what is unfolding in your spirit right now is not ordinary transformation. It is divine recalibration. The shift happening within you is not the result of motivation, emotion, or coincidence. It is the result of heavenly intervention. God has stepped into the architecture of your inner world and begun rearranging everything so you can finally inhabit the identity He ordained for you before time existed. Anointed one, you are being reformed, realigned, and recommissioned for a destiny far greater than anything you have ever imagined. You see, many people experience moments of inspiration, but very few experience true awakening. Inspiration touches the mind, but awakening transforms the spirit. Inspiration makes you feel temporarily lifted, but awakening makes you permanently elevated. And what is happening inside of you is awakening, deep, irreversible awakening. You are seeing with new eyes, hearing with new discernment, and walking with new boldness. The things that used to intimidate you no longer hold power. The shadows that once felt overwhelming now look small beneath the light growing within you. But to fully understand this awakening, you must reflect on what it cost. Because awakening always has a price. It requires the surrender of illusions, the burial of outdated versions of the self, the willingness to confront truths that are uncomfortable but necessary. Chosen. One Heaven watched you walk through a season where everything familiar fell apart, not to destroy you, but to detox you from false identities. You were too big for the structures that once contained you. Your spirit outgrew the mindset that once felt comfortable. And because you would not willingly leave that old version of life, Heaven allowed pressure to push you into transformation. This is why the battle felt so relentless. It was not punishment, it was spiritual propulsion. The darkness you faced was not a sign of abandonment, but a sign of assignment. The enemy does not waste resources attacking those with no future. It attacks those whose future threatens hell's agenda. And you, Anointed One, carry a future that terrifies darkness. You carry legacy. You carry liberation. You carry generational impact. There are people who will walk in freedom because you chose to awaken. There are bloodlines that will be healed because you chose to break patterns. There are destinies waiting to unfold because you said yes to transformation. But now that you have awakened, something even more profound is happening. Your mind is being renewed at the speed of the Spirit. Old beliefs are falling away. Old fears are losing their argument. Old versions of yourself are dissolving under the weight of truth. And the truth is, this you are not who life tried to make you. You are who God destined you to be. This truth is not motivational, it is spiritual law. The more you align with truth, the less authority lies have over you. The more you recognize your identity, the less power the enemy has to influence your emotions. The more you step into your calling, the more Heaven releases the resources to sustain it. This is why your tomorrow begins with awareness, because awareness unlocks authority. I want to speak to you from an intimate place of testimony. There was a time when I thought awakening meant feeling powerful. That breakthroughs would come when I felt strong and unstoppable. But the truth is, many of my greatest awakenings happened on days I felt empty. Days when I questioned everything. Days when I crawled through prayer instead of soaring in worship. It was in those low places where I realized awakening is not birthed from perfection but from surrender. God does not awaken those who pretend to be strong. He awakens those who admit they are weak without Him. And, Chosen One, you have surrendered in ways Heaven celebrates. You have laid down illusions, pride, expectations, timelines. You have let God peel back layers you thought were permanent. And now that the real you has emerged, the healed you, the bold you, the aligned you, Heaven is preparing to position you in places the old you would never have believed possible. Understand this sacred truth. Elevation is not a reward. It is an identity requirement. When you become who God ordained you to be, the environments around you must shift to match your new internal reality. This is why old connections suddenly feel out of place. This is why certain opportunities no longer excite you. This is why you feel a growing distance between who you were and who you are becoming. Identity creates atmosphere. Your elevation demands that everything connected to you rises as well. Chosen One, there will be moments in this transition where you may feel a strange combination of excitement and grief. Excitement for what's coming, grief for what's being left behind. And that is normal. Every true awakening requires burial. Not burial of your worth, but burial of the versions of yourself that were built on survival instead of destiny. The old you served its purpose, but the awakened you is required for the next dimension. And now, because the awakened you has emerged, heaven is shifting gears. What once took months will take days. What once took years will take moments. What once exhausted you will now flow with grace. This is what happens when identity and assignment align. Heaven moves quickly on behalf of those who move in obedience. Your tomorrow, the prophetic tomorrow that heaven has spoken, will not introduce you to a new world. It will introduce the world to a new you. A you who carries authority in your voice. A you who walks with clarity in your steps. A you who no longer begs for validation, but understands your value. A you who will attract opportunities not by striving, but by identity. A you who can finally handle the blessings heaven withheld until now. Anointed one. The cycle ends because the version of you that sustained it no longer exists. The battle ends because the identity the battle attacked has died. And now the resurrected you, the awakened, elevated, spiritually mature you, is ready to walk into a tomorrow darkness cannot follow. Chosen one. As we journey deeper into this unfolding revelation, heaven is highlighting something critical for you to understand, something that explains not only why the warfare was so intense, but why its ending carries such tremendous spiritual weight. You are not just stepping out of a battle. You are stepping into a revelation of identity that threatens every structure of darkness that once stood against you. The enemy did not fear your past. He feared your awakening. And now that awakening has arrived, the old warfare no longer has legal access to your life. For so long, you interpreted the intensity of your struggle as punishment or abandonment. You wondered why certain battles followed you from season to season, why certain patterns repeated themselves, why certain doors seemed to open for others but remained closed for you. But heaven is revealing the truth. The pressure was a sign of your calling. The resistance was a sign of your assignment. The heaviness was a sign that destiny was nearing manifestation. Anointed one, you were not being crushed. You were being carved. This carving process is something only chosen ones experience. God removes what cannot go with you into your next dimension. He cuts away the fear that would sabotage your authority. He cuts away the insecurity that would silence your voice. He cuts away the relationships that would distract your spirit. He cuts away the coping mechanisms that once comforted you, but now confine you. Pain is often the tool, but transformation is always the purpose. What felt like breaking was actually building, and now you are beginning to see the signs. You feel stronger in ways you cannot fully explain. You sense clarity returning where confusion once lived. You notice your spirit responding differently to situations that used to trigger you. You speak with more authority. You walk with more intention. You discern with more precision. These are not small changes, they are markers of spiritual maturity. They are evidence that heaven has been working in you quietly, deeply, persistently. Chosen one. One of the greatest shifts happening in this season is in how you see yourself. For years you underrated your own power. You dimmed your own light. You made yourself small to fit situations that were never meant to contain you. But awakening has a way of breaking false ceilings. You're no longer apologizing for your calling. You're no longer shrinking in the presence of small-minded people. You're no longer questioning what God has already confirmed. This new version of you carries a confidence that is not rooted in ego, but in revelation. And revelation is dangerous to darkness. That is why the warfare felt personal, because it was. Hell fears those who know who they are. The enemy spent years trying to distort your identity, using rejection, betrayal, loss, comparison, fear. But every attack failed because God had already written His name over your life. You were not chosen because you were perfect. You were chosen because heaven placed something inside you that darkness could not kill. And now that it has awakened, the battle must end. The cycle must break. The pattern must dissolve. Anointed One, you need to hear this with your spirit. What once fought you cannot follow you into your tomorrow. The level you are stepping into is inaccessible to the version of darkness that once opposed you. You have elevated beyond the reach of old warfare. You have outgrown the strategies that once intimidated you. What felt overwhelming in the past now feels insignificant, not because the battle changed, but because you did. And with this awakening comes something powerful, a new level of spiritual authority. You will find yourself speaking differently, more clarity, more conviction. You will find yourself thinking differently, more discipline, more vision. You will find yourself choosing differently, no longer from fear or desperation, but from purpose and discernment. You are no longer reactive. You are becoming intentional. You are no longer surviving. You are preparing to build. This inner shift is the doorway to the external shift heaven is preparing. Because once God finishes transforming your identity, He begins transforming your environment. Opportunities begin aligning, divine connections begin appearing, provision begins flowing, closed doors begin opening, not because you chase these things, but because these things are drawn to alignment. Chosen One. The next season of your life will not be defined by striving, it will be defined by attraction. What is meant for you will find you because your spirit is finally tuned to the frequency of destiny. You no longer repel blessings with self-doubt. You attract them with confidence. You no longer sabotage opportunities with fear. You steward them with clarity. You no longer delay your own breakthrough with hesitation. You step into it with authority. And this is why the cycle ends tomorrow. Because the version of you that sustained the cycle has passed away, and the awakened, elevated, anointed you has risen. Chosen One, you are not stepping into a new season, you are stepping into a new self. And that self is unstoppable. Chosen One. As you draw nearer to the revelation of your prophetic tomorrow, heaven is urging your spirit to recognize something essential. You are no longer standing where you used to stand. The ground beneath you has shifted. The atmosphere around you has changed. You have been elevated without announcement, transformed without applause, strengthened without witnesses. That is how heaven builds its warriors quietly, thoroughly, intentionally. Anointed One, this next truth must settle deeply in your soul. Your future is no longer tied to the battles of your past. The warfare that once circled your life is losing its grip because the identity it was fighting no longer exists. You have outgrown the storm. You have surpassed the level where those weapons were effective. What wounded you yesterday cannot reach you today. There is a divine stillness forming around your name, an inner quiet that signals spiritual maturity. You are beginning to hear God more clearly. You are sensing shifts before they manifest. You are discerning people and environments with unusual accuracy. This is not coincidence. It is calibration. Heaven is fine-tuning your perception because what is coming requires clarity, not confusion, courage, not hesitation. Chosen One, you must understand that the ending of this cycle is not a gentle fade out. It is a divine cut-off, a severing, a holy interruption. God is closing doors with force because too much is at stake for you to remain attached to old patterns, old wounds, or old versions of yourself. What is behind you is no longer compatible with the you who stands here now. And with this ending comes acceleration. You will notice that answers arrive quicker, ideas come sharper, favor appears more frequently. What once took years will now take months. What once took months will take days. This is the rhythm of someone who has stepped into alignment. Heaven responds to identity, and your identity has finally awakened to its true power. But understand, this acceleration is not merely about speed, it is about direction. God is not rushing you. He is repositioning you. He is orchestrating divine timing so precisely that you will soon look back and realize that every delay was actually protection, every disappointment was redirection, every closed door was guidance. Anointed One, you are entering a future where your voice carries weight, your presence shifts atmospheres, and your obedience opens doors. You are not stepping into tomorrow uncertain, you are stepping into it prepared, strengthened, clarified, transformed, and the cycle ends not because the battle changed, but because you did. Chosen One. As this revelation moves toward its holy crescendo, heaven is drawing your spirit into a deeper understanding of what is truly ending tomorrow. It is not just a battle, not just a season, not just a cycle. What ends tomorrow is an entire identity that once kept you bound to the limitations of your past. You have been walking through a spiritual metamorphosis, and the pressure you felt was not punishment, it was transformation. You are not the same person who entered this storm. You have changed in ways even you have not fully recognized. There is a strength in you now that was not there before, a clarity that was forged in silence, a resilience that grew in the nights when no one saw your tears. And heaven is saying, because the real you has awakened, the old warfare cannot continue. The enemy cannot attack what no longer exists. The version of you he fought has died. The awakened you is untouchable. Anointed One, think back on the moments you wanted to walk away, the days you questioned everything, the nights you felt like the weight was too much to carry. Those were not breaking points, they were birthing points. God was stripping away what was fragile so he could reveal what was unshakable. You learned to pray differently. You learned to discern more sharply. You learned to trust, not because life was gentle, but because God was faithful. And this internal shift, this rising awareness, is why tomorrow marks the end of the old cycle. Heaven is not waiting for the calendar to change. Heaven is responding to the change that has already occurred inside of you. You have outgrown the chains. You have surpassed the patterns. What used to tempt you no longer appeals to you. What used to intimidate you no longer shakes you. What once confused you now appears small and powerless. Chosen One. You must understand this. Destiny always accelerates after identity awakens. Once you truly know who you are, hell loses its strategy. The lies lose their volume. The fear loses its grip. The darkness loses its authority. You begin to walk with a new posture, not out of pride, but out of revelation. You stop begging for what is already yours. You stop apologizing for the calling God placed on your life. You stop shrinking to fit environments that were never meant to contain you. This is why heaven is announcing the final hour. Not because you fought perfectly, but because you endured faithfully. Your endurance has become your evidence. Evidence that you are ready. Evidence that you are aligned. Evidence that you can be trusted with what comes next. And what comes next is not small. There is a divine acceleration forming in the unseen. Opportunities that once ignored you will start searching for you. Rooms that once rejected you will prepare a seat for you. Favor that seemed delayed will begin to arrive in waves. This is not because life suddenly became easier. It is because you became elevated. Anointed One tomorrow does not simply represent a time shift. It represents a spiritual inheritance being released. The clarity you prayed for is coming. The strategy you longed for is emerging. The divine connections you lost hope for are realigning. Heaven is orchestrating movement on your behalf. Even now, angels are adjusting the details of your next season. And yet, the greatest change is happening inside you. You are seeing yourself more clearly. You are hearing God more easily. You are recognizing spiritual warfare faster. You are stepping into your authority with boldness. This is what the enemy feared. Not your past, not your mistakes, not your weaknesses. He feared your awakening. And now it has happened. Chosen One, walk into tomorrow knowing this. Nothing that fought you yesterday has permission to follow you into your destiny. The cycle is over. The fog is lifting. The weight is breaking. The confusion is dissolving. You are rising into the identity heaven crafted before you were born. Your tomorrow begins not with a sunrise, but with a decision. The decision to believe that you are who God says you are. The decision to step into the version of you that hell cannot defeat. The decision to walk in the fullness of your calling without hesitation. Chosen One, this is your turning point. Your line in the sand. Your spiritual crossing over. And when tomorrow arrives, it will not meet the old you. It will meet the awakened you, the aligned you, the anointed you, the undefeatable you. Chosen One, as this word comes to its sacred close, let your spirit rest in what heaven has already begun. You're not leaving this moment empty. You are leaving marked, strengthened, and divinely positioned for the supernatural transfer appointed to your life. Anointed One, this is your Kairos hour, the moment where what God spoke, what you carried, and what heaven preserved finally converge. The shift is not coming. It has started. The weight has lifted. The atmosphere has changed. And the future that once felt distant is now drawing itself toward you with speed, favor, and precision. Walk forward knowing the old battles have no permission to follow, the old chains have no authority to return, and the old version of you has no place in the glory that awaits. Chosen One, may the peace of God steady your steps. May His voice guide your decisions. May His angels surround your home, your heart, and your purpose. And may every seed of faith you have planted return to you multiplied in this very season. If this message stirred your spirit, let heaven see your agreement. Share what awakened in you. Stay connected so you never miss the next wave of what God is releasing. And if you feel led, stand with this ministry as we continue awakening and equipping chosen ones across the earth. Go now in reverence, in power, and in prophetic expectation. Your tomorrow has already shifted. Walk into it boldly, Anointed One. The divine transfer is in motion.